Well, welcome back to County Talk. This is the time where we explore the nitty-gritty issues that you as a taxpayer get to deal with in our county. And we like to try to shed light on topics that are of concern to you. And I'm Sue Hansen. I'm one of your 3 elected county commissioners, and I'm here with the general manager for the Uncompahgre Water Users Association and the Division 4 water engineer from the state, Bob Hurford. So we thought we would talk a little bit about everybody's kind of concerned about water. It's a big issue right now. Everybody knows we've been in a drought for a number of years. This is a bit of an unprecedented year, but we wanted to bring these gentlemen in so we could get the facts and so you would have some ideas on how we're moving forward. This will be the first of maybe several sessions that we talk about water because there's a lot to it. It's more complicated than you think. It's not like just turning on the spigot and have water. So we want to make sure that you have all the information that you need to make informed decisions about your water and your consumption and all of those things. So before we get started and we do a deep dive into the water discussion, Steve, tell us a little bit about what your scope is and what your job as the general manager is for the Water Users Association.
Well, Sue, we operate the Gunnison Tunnel project and the Uncompahgre project. So we deliver water from the Gunnison Tunnel to the valley, and we provide irrigation water to roughly 84,000 acres of farm ground from, say, Kelowna to Delta. Priority water is is a little bit of it too. We have carriage contracts with some of the historic priority ditches where we deliver water, but it's the majority of the water comes from the Gunnison Tunnel and then Uncompahgre natural flows. Some reservoir releases out of Ridgeway. So we try to manage that water because we don't have a big river system running through the valley. You know, we have to use and reuse the water several times, recapturing it and redistributing it to our shareholders. And all of the shareholders have an equal priority. So we have to treat the folks at the very tail end of the system similar to we would at the head of the system where they have that direct access to the water. So it presents some challenges with the fluctuations in flow due to weather and rotationals of crop timing of irrigation systems and the declining hydrograph.
Right, so it's a lot more complicated than people think. You know, people think they just turn on their pump or their irrigation water and voila, there it is, right?
Very much.
But over 100 years ago, the founding fathers laid out this I guess I should say the federal government laid out this very complicated water system, and which is what delivers our irrigation water to us now. So primarily the Water Users is concerned with irrigation water.
Correct.
And the sources are the Gunnison Tunnel, the Uncompahgre River, and all of that is all dependent upon what? Bob, tell us a little bit about your scope and what is our water, where's our water come from?
Okay, I'll back up a little bit and say that the Colorado Division of Water Resources is that entity that is the controls where water is supposed to be going where to those who are entitled to use it. Colorado is a pure prior appropriation system of water rights. That is, in times of shortage, it's those senior water rights that are going to receive the water first. And depending on how much water supply there is, there may be a lot of what we call junior water rights that they're off. And so we kind of have this saying, if you see water flowing, put it where it belongs. And so we have our boots are on the ground of some of the public may have heard of the water commissioner, and that's that local representative of Division of Water Resources that is making sure that water is going where it's supposed to be going.
Right. So a lot of what you deal with is water rights and making sure people are adhering to what their actual right is to that water.
Yes, and in a nutshell, I mean, among other things, I guess I should say, because we also we issue well permits, and you can't drill a well in the state of Colorado without a permit. And there's other things we manage stream flow gauges, so you can go online, and there's a lot of stuff available online today on our website. And I encourage people to go there, and because it's full of all kinds of information. But you asked about
where does our water come from?
That's
kind of the crux of everything that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. So water supply is, we Division of Water Resources, water managers, we think of the base flows in our streams, storage in our reservoirs, and the snowpack. and people, I think people today, and I've said it before, that live in this area are more knowledgeable about all things water than they were 20 years ago, for sure. Yeah, I mean, because of the things like the Water Summit that's held annually in the Colorado River District, State of the River meetings, things like that. There's a lot of more public information.
Right.
And so you look, Sue, and you see, wow, look at those beautiful white mountains, and you're driving by Ridgeway Reservoir. Oh, look how nice.
Right.
You think, the birds are singing and the sun's shining, what could be wrong? Yeah, we're in a tough water year.
Yeah, this is a real tough water year, and everybody knows that. I mean, all we've heard about is the lack of snow, and obviously, if we don't have the snowfall and the snowpack, we don't have the water. So
that is our biggest reservoir. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think what we need to discuss is why. I mean, I think people don't realize that we live in a desert. And I think that we've been lulled into thinking when we've had abundant water over the years that it's not that big of a deal, right? But it is a big deal. And when we've had prolonged drought, how many years now are we in?
Over 20.
Over 20 years in a drought. And every year we're hopeful, and we're even more hopeful every year. And here's a little bit more snow. But this year is dire. I mean, we've really not received. I mean, can you give us some of the stats about where we are at this point?
Well, we look at the flow models from the Colorado River Basin Forecast Center, and they have all of the SNOTEL sites up the various tributaries or the main stem.
SNOTEL are the measurement
It measures the quantity and then the water content of the snow. And looking at the Uncompahgre Basin, there are three primary gauges that we look at. It's the Idorado gauge, the Red Mountain gauge, and then just on the other side of Silverton is, I think it's Milne Creek. All three of these gauges this year are ranked number one for the worst year on record. And I mean, it's pretty indicative that we just do not have the snowpack there. We've also, this year, we partnered with Tri-County Water, the Colorado River District, I think Delta County, maybe Montrose, some of the different counties and funded an ASO flight to really look at the snowpack. With ASO as the Aerial Snow Observatory, and they actually fly the basin with a downward-looking radar, and they can measure snow depth and water content to give us an overall perspective. And it's interesting how the numbers from the Colorado River Basin Forecast Center, which are based on just a couple of key gauges, and the ASO numbers are differing, with the ASO being less.
Right. So that, I mean, that must keep you up at night when we're looking at low snowpack and we're looking at higher temperatures. I mean, who in the world thought we would have a 90-degree temperature in what? March.
Yeah, March.
March. I don't think that's ever happened, but I think without the water, Montrose County is a dry desert with some sage and some really unusable land.
Pretty much.
It's only been the fact that we had the Gunnison Tunnel 100 years ago that we were able to have this verdant, semi-verdant valley that we have. So what I want people to understand watching this podcast that we're not naturally, we don't have 8 inches of precipitation a year is kind of our average.
Roughly.
And I don't know what we have. What is it now? I mean, is it down to zilcho?
Well, it depends on every year, but those averages keep dropping. Maybe in the 80s and the 90s, you're talking 10 inches average. Now we're in the 8, range.
Right.
So yeah.
So it is significant, and we're going to try to keep this local. In future podcasts, we'll talk a little bit more about the Colorado River and sort of some of that impact. But I just want people to walk away with having some ideas of what they can do. So let's just take a step back, and maybe Bob, you can sort of talk a little bit about the difference between raw water and M&I water.
Sure.
Would that be okay to give a little insight into that?
And you want me to focus on maybe Inner Valley specifically would probably be a good idea.
We talk about raw water, and that's kind of our irrigation water, untreated.
Yes.
Explain that a little bit.
Yes. Well, we have a unique system in the Uncompahgre Valley. All of our water, drinking water, comes out of the Gunnison River, just like it comes through the Gunnison Tunnel, which feeds the Uncompahgre Valley Water Users Association system, the whole project. That is very clean, very high quality water. It's treated at the Project 7 Water Authority's treatment plant, and it is distributed to everywhere from Kelowna all the way to Delta through various distribution systems, the city of Montrose, city of Delta, the town of Olathe. We have Tri-County Water Conservancy District, Chipeta Water, and Minokan Water. So, but when you open your tap, it's all the same water. And it is not an unlimited supply. There is a limit to what the Project 7 water treatment plant can produce. And so people need to kind of understand in times like this, the weather is hotter. People are going to be wanting to water their lawns more often. So, and hoping maybe we can talk about, what can we do to conserve? But the raw water, there are some subdivisions. I'd rather let Steve talk about that. But, there was a cornfield up here on Spring Creek Mesa. It's now a subdivision, and they're all watering their lawns. Where is that coming from? That's raw water.
Right.
That's coming right out of the Uncompahgre Valley Project.
As long as they're watering with their irrigation.
Yes.
Because some people do water with their treated water, right?
Correct.
We don't necessarily encourage that.
So we don't encourage it, and it is desirable. But the competition during short years like this can get pretty fierce.
Right. So we're going to talk a little bit about the arguing that'll probably be happening, but talk a little bit about the raw water, Steve.
And regarding subdivisions, I think one of the issues is this system was set up as an agricultural water delivery system. And when you think about agriculture, you have a 100-acre field of corn, and you water the first quarter of it until the water gets to the end of the row, and then you move it all the way through until your 100 acres has been irrigated. Now that 100-acre cornfield is 10 individual 10-acre mini farms, and they all want to grow grass pasture, and they all want to grow the water, grass pasture at the same time, and that water just doesn't go as far. So we're not seeing the return flows, number one, but number two, even the delivery amounts start to pit neighbor against neighbor because there's just not enough physical water to irrigate that 100 acres at once. They have to either get into a rotation schedule, learn how to share their water with their neighbors, or make some sort of a infrastructure upgrade within the subdivisions to be able to allow for that consistent use of water.
Right. So that's when we start getting into the idea of you need to talk to your neighbors. You need to be able to talk about when you're going to water, how long you're going to water, and that kind of thing. But it never occurred to me before that if I'm growing a 100-acre cornfield, I'm only going to irrigate from May to September, and then I shut the water off, right? And that water goes down to the user below me. But when you have a lawn, and nobody wants a brown lawn, but I'm saying brown is the new green now. Brown is the new green. We're going to be. I like brown now, but as that happens, over time, is that subdivision using actually more water than a cornfield might have?
I don't know that they're using more water, but they're using water during a longer period of time. And so when we have our system starting up early in the season on a good year, before runoff occurs, there's that extra demand for water, which sometimes presents a challenge. And then in the late season, when our reservoir supplies are gone and we're just down to kind of our base flows, they still have that consistent demand for that lawn watering, which is much different than it had been 30, 40 years ago.
Right. So I want to just reiterate that when the system was originally set up, it was set up for crops. Right. I mean, it was an agricultural area. It wasn't. I mean, even thinking about these kind of subdivisions wasn't even in our thought process. You might have someone who subdivides one acre plot or something like that, but now we have many more homes to feed that water to. So your job has gotten more complicated, I'm assuming.
Yes, infinitely more.
So you're trying to balance what someone who lives in a neighborhood would want and need as the agricultural producers who actually need that water for producing their crops and their cattle and all of that.
And we're trying to adapt to these changes resulting from development with a system that was not designed for that. And what happens more often is that these parcels, as they get carved up into smaller and smaller chunks, they all want their individual diversions, and it gets to the point where it's difficult to measure just very small amounts of water to these properties. So and so they result again from head gate diversions to pumps, which are very difficult to regulate. And that's one of the things that we're really focusing on this year is we've hired some additional staff. We are cracking down on, number one, illegal pumps. I think there's a significant number of people that just feel, oh, there's a canal or a lateral running through my backyard. I'm going to put a pump in. I'm going to water. I'm only taking, 50 gallons a minute for a brief period of time. It's not going to have an impact. But when you multiply that by 1,000
or a few thousand,
yeah. It really turns our system upside down at times, and then we have to react. And oftentimes, when we have a big swing in the system, it takes 2 to 3 days for it to balance out. And so, by having these constant demands, and it's crazy because everybody, human nature, they like to irrigate between, say, 4 and 8 o'clock in the morning and 6 and 10 o'clock in the evening. And so those are the two times where we see these massive draws on the system, and it adds up to, 30 or 40 cubic feet per second, a swing that now is we're shorting a canal. And when that shortage hits the tail end, and all those ag producers that had set siphon tubes and put all the effort into getting that crop, they go dry for a period of time, and so we really have to address that continuous fluctuation in our system.
So, and you mentioned the priority water. So, some of these ag producers have senior water rights and they have priority water. So when I am using more of my water upstream because I have a big subdivision and everybody wants green grass and all of that, what happens to them, and how do they get their water if they're at the far end of the system?
Well, if you're a senior water right holder at the bottom of a stream system, that's the ultimate place to be,
because you're going to get your water, or you're going to get some water.
You better believe it. So, for example, the Montrose and Delta Canal, their head gate is, it would be about near Uncompahgre Road. So you're still quite a bit north of Kelowna, but it's really looking upstream to the entire Ouray County. And the water rights that exist in the M&D Canal, the Montrose and Delta Canal, are very senior water rights. And in a bad year like this, and has happened, several times over the last couple decades, a deep senior call will shut off nearly all the irrigation water rights because it's so senior. This was settled first. And every stream system has been settled a little bit differently, so the water rights were developed differently. The very senior water rights are here. And the ranches and ranch land was, yes, there were mines. People were in the mining fields in the mountains earlier, but these fields were developed earlier, so they're looking upstream. So that's the favorable position.
Right.
And that has the effect of shutting off a lot of water rights.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about how we're going to, water rights and the prior appropriation, all of those things are very complicated concepts for the general public to really, we want to turn on the water.
If you just think of, hey,
water.
I was here first.
Yeah, I was here first. Okay.
Yep.
So and how does that complicate what you have to deliver? Because you have some obligations to senior water rights that you have to get. They have to get that water if they start a crop. We can't just dry up their crop.
Correct. We do the carriage contracts, but one of the important point we'd like to make is, the Uncompahgre Basin this year, we don't feel that it's going to really deliver much water for us. And so we're going to be solely reliant on our tunnel deliveries, which allows our system to operate at about 50%. And so that's where we're going to have to start our producers at, expecting that there is not going to be an appreciable amount of water coming down the Uncompahgre this year for us to use. That's normally what makes up the other 50% is that stream flow from there, the storage content in Ridgeway, and then our ability to continually use and reuse water. With that, we looked at, Cow Creek as a major contributor into the Uncompahgre, and there's some discussion that it might re-peak again, but it might have already peaked. It was down to 6 or 7 CFS this morning. Normally that creek would have 250 in it.
And isn't that where, you've talked often before about the surge you get in the beginning of the season? So there may not be a surge.
Yeah. It's very, the colder weather up there, it freezes and thaws throughout the day. And then And then you see that diurnal peak. Once it thaws up, it runs, and then it freezes back at night. So you see the lull, and then it starts over
What
again.
did you think when you saw that at Cow Creek this morning? Because I saw it too.
Oh,
and I'm like tapping my screen. Is it broke? I couldn't believe what I saw.
What was it?
Six feet.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it's a trickle.
What would be a normal for that at this time?
This
of
time
year?
of year, 250, 300.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And climbing.
Yeah, and climbing,
we're on the
yes.
6 and maybe going down.
So we might have had our surge
It
just a
could
little
be
bit
over. Yeah.
Last Wednesday, I think things peaked personally, but
I got an email from the Colorado Snow Survey study, and they look at Senator Beck Basin and Swamp Angel, and they said that they were not seeing freezing temperatures at 12,200 feet over the last 2 weeks. So if it's not freezing up there, it's a continuous runoff. And
so the important discussions that we have, and this is why the communication of this water supply information early is very, very important. And having these public meetings, like, having the water summit, state of the river meetings, that's that kind of communication about water supply that is super beneficial. If you're a farmer, a producer, you need to know how much. Are you going to have enough water to farm all
those
that?
producers, they're talking to people, right? I'm concerned about the 44,000 people that don't come to a water summit, right, and don't understand. So how do we explain that to them? So I want to just back up a minute because I think we got the picture that it's going to be a tough year from the water perspective. So a couple things that you mentioned about the illegal pumps. Are you able to calculate how much water is been consumed or taken because of illegal pumping?
we're just trying to get a handle on it right now, and this is a great year to come out and really start this type of project because they've been out there. We just haven't had the staff to address, looking for that little garden hose that's dripping, hanging in the weeds there that's pumping it out. But now we really have to make a conscious effort to find them. And it's not just the illegal ones. It's, when we issue in the past, we sell annual contracts for, it's called rented water, and they're allowed to divert one share of water. And in the contract, it states they can use a 3/4 inch line. Well, most irrigation pumps are 1.5 or 2 inch. And so they could conceivably be pumping 10 to 15 times, although it's just for a short period of time, but their amount. And then again, you multiply that by 1,000 and it has that big impact on us. So one of the objectives this year is we've canceled all of our contract water and are offering either a refund or we'll give them a credit toward next year. And then any shareholders that are pumping water, we're pushing toward metering and regulating valves. And then obviously we're going to be on the lookout for any illegal pump. I mean, automatically they get taken out. They're flat out stealing their neighbor's water.
Right. And that never bodes well.
No.
Nobody's ever happy about that, right? So what are some of the challenges that you're seeing on your end? Because, you get called all the time from people. Are you seeing people complaining about their lack of water or whatever? I mean, what are you hearing?
It started, believe it or not, the second week of March, because there are a lot of irrigators out there, not in this system, not in the Uncompahgre project, that they know this is a dire year. They started irrigating as soon as they could.
As soon as the water returned.
As soon as there was water coming down.
Right.
And so now you have this non-irrigation season competition for water. What do you do? Well, on a complex stream system like our streams on the Grand Mesa where you have senior water rights down below and you've got non-irrigation season stock water rights. There were a lot of ranchers that wisely went to water court back in the day because they go through a drought period and, hey, wait a minute, I don't have any stock water. So they go to court first and get a stock water decree. Now they're ahead of their neighbor. And then you have junior reservoirs up high. So we have to fix the irrigation season April 1 through October 31st on complex systems like that. And so when it's not irrigation season, you can still irrigate if you're not gouging somebody's stock water right or a filling right for a reservoir. But then once one irrigator starts irrigating,
Then everybody wants to irrigate.
yeah, and then they want to call for their water. I'm more senior to him, and
Yeah.
not right now. You're not, and it's position on the stream. Yeah,
That must be like being a county commissioner sometimes,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yeah, and it started literally. I think it was the first week of March this year. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're all in for a big awakening. I was 2002 a really bad year, or was it before
02.
that?
It was 2002.
Right. So I remember that the ditch rider would lock our gate. Right. I mean, they'd lock it down, and so everybody would get their share of the water, or so we would be able to work that out. And then when times were better, that didn't necessarily happen. And I think the better the neighbors work things out with each other, I'll water now, you water later, whatever, however you can. You have to talk to your neighbor. And we're in a world and a society now where I don't know if people are doing that and working things out. And I know that we've always joked about, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. But we really have to come together and be able to figure this out. So I posed the question to Steve at the State of the River meeting. What can I do? I mean, everybody has their thing, right? I have my little garden. Each tomato probably costs me $9 by the time I pay for the water. And then, we have some grass that we like to have green and waving in the wind. But I said, would that help? If I did not water that this year, would that help? And what was your?
Well, and I would say yes. I mean, I had our homeowners association meeting, and I flat out told our HOA that I will not be turning my sprinklers on this year, just for that purpose. I guess some of the things is, I jokingly say, no matter how much you water asphalt, it's not going to grow. So be aware, at least. That's one thing too, is just don't waste the water on the asphalt or the sidewalk.
Right.
Minimize it. And some people, for the most part, they overwater. They water every day, 2 hours a day, and they can get by 2 times a week. Those are just some of the things. It can still have a greenish lawn, or the breen, or whatever, whatever the comment is
the
now.
City said,
But that's they can still get by this year. Producers cannot get by. I mean, that's one of the things, and they're making some really difficult choices right now. How much to fallow this year?
And have you had some indication of what people are thinking about fallowing in terms of acres?
We don't know for sure, but I mean, we've written some letters for the preventative planning programs for crop insurance, and we're stating that we could be as low as 40% on our delivery this year if conditions persist and we don't get the monsoons and we get a drier season. And right now we're solely reliant on that Gunnison Tunnel, and we will have our water in Ridgeway Reservoir, which we save. That is our savings account for mid-July through first week or two of August, when it's really hot and we need that extra surge of water for the producers to finish their sweet corn, to get their onions wet one more time. Those are the things
that's when they'll release.
And then we're going to work to try to save that water as long as we can and make that release when it could be the best benefit to the producers.
Yeah, that's another thing too. I wanted to, when people move here from, I don't know, give me a rainy state. Connecticut,
anywhere east of the
anywhere but here,
east of Mississippi.
But they always think of the reservoirs as being the fun, just fun lakes to go paddle around and do things on. But they really were meant in the dry, arid desert for irrigation.
That's why they were constructed, and we are blessed in our basin that we're flush with multiple Bureau of Reclamation projects. We've got Silverjack Reservoir, Paonia Reservoir, Crawford Reservoir, Fruit Growers Reservoir, Paonia Reservoir, the whole Aspinall unit, Blue Mesa, Ridgeway. And then when you see them full, it is a little bit, it kind of fools you a little
misleading.
bit. It's a false sense of comfort, because that's a one-time. We were very fortunate. Last fall was extremely rainy, and those reservoirs actually kind of filled up a little bit, which was good. We need it. But it does a little false sense of insurance. It doesn't fix everything.
Yeah, and I've been with people as we drive by Ridgeway when it's been a lot's been drawn out of it, and people are like, "Oh, look how dry it is." I'm like, "No, people are using it. I mean,
will it ever fill again?"
It's actually for a purpose.
And that's the big challenge. Is we're trying to, at the end of every year, we try to leave we have some target flows or elevations in Ridgeway that we like to maintain going into the fall, just so we have a fighting chance that on an average year, we're going to get a full pool next year. If we don't, then the 2 years and we could pretty well be out of our pool. And that 22,000 acre feet of water that we have access to we have a purchase contract that we bought water. We have an exchange agreement with Project 7. So any water that goes into the Project 7 system gets exchanged up into their pool out of Ridgeway. So we get some water out of that. And then as Bob mentioned before regarding the calls, we have a no call agreement with Ouray County where they have purchased a block of water in Ridgeway, and if they dedicate it to us, then we won't place the call upstream. So that water's there this year, and we're going to need it. But we don't want to pull Ridgeway down too much.
See all that cooperating going on there?
Yeah.
That's how you make it.
And we talk. I mean, we are on the phone we meet with the folks, the Tri-County folks and Ridgeway operators almost daily to discuss what are the inflows, what's our projected plan. We meet with the state engineer and the Bureau of Reclamation every 2 weeks to kind of go over changing conditions and really planning how we're going to address this, because no one entity can do it. It takes that coordination. And
and I think just to take a bigger picture out, the state of Colorado is not looking all that great. I mean, I just was on a webinar this morning where if you look at the entire state, there's only a few pockets that have actually gotten enough adequate snowfall, and so it is. To me, it's frightening. And I guess I want to wrap this up because we're going to do additional sessions just so we can cover this with everybody, and hopefully we have people that call and ask questions. Then we can sort of fashion that in our next podcast. But what is keeping you up at night, Steve? I mean, not that you look tired.
No, but it's the uncertainty of this is bad, but it could always get worse. Mm-hmm. We always adapt. We adapt through fallowing ground. We make those adjustments based on hydrology because we're conditioned to live under the hydrology that's provided. We don't have that false sense of security that there's an unlimited supply above us. Mm-hmm. So they will make those adjustments, but every year it just keeps getting tougher and tougher. And for our producers, it's like, how many hits can they have?
Yep.
Legislation. Diesel is going through the roof.
Diesel, right?
You may not have water. On years that you have good water, you could have some sort of an aphid or a bug infestation. I mean, there's always something a challenge that they have to overcome to get a product to market.
Right, and I want to support the producer. So I'm going to tell you right here, and I'm going to swear, I'm not going to water the grass. And I'm not going to have a garden, and I'm going to be really thoughtful about, my consumption. And I don't think we want to leave a message with, oh my gosh, we're in a terrible situation. But the more conscious we are about our usage, the more aware we are, I think the better the system will be. And frankly, I'd rather sacrifice a little of my aesthetic desires for around my house and make sure our producer gets that water.
Well, and this year, 2002 was our worst year on record. This year, the snowpack is worse than that. But the things have changed in the valley. There's been a lot of growth in this valley since 2002. So how we can adapt to this diminished water supply is going to be a challenge. And I mentioned before, we're kind of in uncharted territory. We're going to have to be very reactive and it's going to take some patience with people. It's going to take some communication and a willingness to understand that, this water it's important for some folks too.
It's important for all of us.
Yeah.
It's a precious resource, and every drop matters and counts. So, what keeps you up at night? You look tired, Bob.
Yeah, I think about those. Yeah, I am tired. I do think about those producers that are. We talked about it earlier before the podcast. The orchardists,
right?
The vintner, there's fact, the wine growing grapes in the Cedar Edge area and the North Fork Valley are very, very popular. Well, guess what? You can't fallow. a vineyard. You
Yeah.
can't fallow an orchard.
Right.
And they got to have water.
And fallow just means you don't plant anything in that piece of property for
you
a
can't
while.
Or you
cut
don't
the
irrigate
water.
it
Or
for
don't
a year.
irrigate it.
No irrigation
And so
there.
you can't do
yes.
that with an orchard. And you said the exact same thing to me yesterday. Is that the orchards are going to be at risk if they don't get the water that
in
they
2002, a local farmer was at least all the land around me, a couple hundred acres. And I said, "Hey Tom, how come you're not growing anything in this 40 to the south of me, and that that 40 over there, and that it was 120 acres. Didn't do anything. He just looked at me like I was dumb. Bob, we're at 50%. I don't have enough. I don't have enough shares to irrigate all that.
Wow.
And here that lower basin states. See, I mean, that was a thank you.
Little editorial
She just
comment there.
kicked me in the shins. And but you see, there are orchardists. They simply can't do that. They're going to have to get water on those. So they're adapting over the years. They've gone to super high efficiency drip in years like this when they can't flood irrigate, just to keep the trees alive, to keep the vines alive. Yeah.
But you can't just change out your irrigation system like that. I mean,
No,
you can't
no,
just
no.
and you can't drip irrigate a cornfield.
No.
Right. So
No.
You can, but the problem is it's expensive.
Expensive,
Yes.
It's not
No payoff. Yeah.
It doesn't work as well in all areas. Our water, the quality, up in the upper portions of the system, it starts out very green, but after it's been across several fields, it gets a little turbid, and by the time you get down into that row crop production area, it's a little challenge. They have to clean the water before they put it into some of their drip systems, and then there's that expense. I mean, they don't give that stuff away, and as a farmer, you're going to take on an expense, and knowing or not knowing next year. You're going to have, the only thing next year is you're going to have a payment on that system, not whether you're going to get water or not.
And you didn't even mention, and we're going to have to talk about this next time because I want to do the wrap on here. But how many times our water is used? So it's not like it's one and done. And so we have a system where the water is being reused all the time. I think I've heard you say up to 7 times.
Yeah, 6 times or so. Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's been really important for the two of you to be here with your level of expertise so that we can understand more about the complexity of our water system. It's not simply just turning on the spigot and having water. And we have to realize that our raw water and our M&I are intricately intertwined with each other, right?
Yes, they are,
so we have to make sure that we understand the uses of both and how we should be responsible. So no watering in the driveways. Brown grass is okay. I'm gonna, I'll even take pictures so you can see how efficient I'm going to be with my lack of using water. So I appreciate you taking the time out. I know you both are busy and have to get going, but we'll cover this in the next session. We'll kind of go from here and see our conditions improved. Did we have some rain? Did we have some snow? Did it change conditions? Has Cow Creek peaked or not? Stay tuned.
Yes.
We appreciate that you're tuning in. I think it's important as we all live in Montrose County. We all love this county and our whole region here. And we need to be responsible. We need to be knowledgeable. And for those of you who are new to the area, I hope you do tune in and learn more about how water works. It is complicated, but it's not unrealistic that you can figure out and understand why we are talking like this and why we're actually doing these dire predictions. So thank you both very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting us.
And thanks for tuning in.
That was fun.
And so thanks for joining us for County Talk, and we'll see you on the next session.